info. 209.
Getting out of bed is, let's face it, terrible. And it, yes, it's the first word of any new discovery. But when all of you do that, the excitement fades. However, once you say yes to the fastest $1,000 allergy relief, turning half hearted yes, but all in yes. However, if you're locked for allergies. Imagine being fearless at the day.
Okay. All right. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Are we ready, bro?
Okay, we're back. Gentlemen on the panel, I'll just tell you that this firm here is Skinner. I think we just wrote that wrong in the back of your books.
Okay. All right. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Are we ready, bro?
Okay, we're back. Gentlemen on the panel, I'll just tell you that this firm here. So what we'll do is you guys will come up, you'll have 15 minutes on those 2 questions that we posed to you. So we'll start off, once we do that, then we'll go around with a variety of questions for you. So we'll start with a little introduction to the lady who's in the room.
All right, I'm Franklin Lamb, Nash Rocky
Board Chair. I'm Chris Bishop, Nash Rocky Mountain School Board.
I'm Robbie Davis, Chair of the Nash County Board of Commissioners.
Wayne Outlaw, Vice Chair of the Nash County Board of Commissioners.
Shannon Davis, Director of Maintenance at Nash Rocky Mountain Schools.
Steve Ellison.
Yeah, so, and I will just tell you guys that this is virtual. So there's your camera. So if you make sure you're at the podium and if any of you are speaking, you step up so you can get on the mic so our partners out there in the virtual world can hear you. You've got 15 minutes.
Thank you very much. I'm Brad Barlow, and our firm is called Skinner Barlow Kerwin Architecture. We were founded in Wilson, North Carolina in 1957 by Atwood Skinner, and we're still operating under that firm. We just changed our name in the last couple of years. But anyway, we're very appreciative to be here, and so this is Alicia Kerwin. I'll let her come up here. And this is Chris Hill from CLH Design. She's our landscape architect. Other members of our team, Ben Skinner, who you may know, is our construction administrator. We're also working with PDC, which is Progressive Design Collaborative, which I think has done some work for the school system also. And then also Mitch Mikens for our structural engineer. We've worked with all these teams on multiple school projects. We do probably about 80% school work, K through 12. We've done work in Wilson County, and we're doing a lot of work in Wake County now, Johnston County, Edgecombe County, and looking forward to continue working in Eastern North Carolina. So just a little bit about our team. We've been working with local school districts for over 30 years. We've done dozens of K-12 projects, over 250 smaller projects, but dozens of full schools in Eastern and Central North Carolina. We are the owners of the firm. We're not a branch office. We're here locally. Our consultants are also owners of the firm, and the owners of the firms that we work with do the actual work. So we think it's important to bring that level of experience to your project. So we love working for schools. Like I said, we do about 80% K through 12. We love to do educational projects. It's what our forte is. I've been working on schools for 35 years and have designed 10 complete full school facilities. And
I'll introduce myself and our consultant, Alicia Kerwin. I don't like to be on camera. I have 25 years of experience, 10 of those in firm leadership. And really what I bring to the project and bring to schools is I've worked in a lot of both K-12 work and also higher education work. And so when you're working in higher education, I have the privilege of working with schools of education. So in terms of being on the cutting edge of what schools are looking at, what pedagogies are being introduced, and helping support that both at the K-12 level and at the higher education level really helps bridge that gap between what universities are looking at, what they're doing with teachers, and how we can reflect that in schools that are being built now to make sure that you all are on the cutting edge of providing the kind of facilities that are most important for your students in the 21st century. As we mentioned, we've been working with our consultants for a very long time. Let me make this quick. There we go. PDC has worked repeatedly with us and has worked on all our schools that we've worked on in Eastern North Carolina. They're out of Raleigh. They are well known for their life cycle cost analysis. When you're starting to look at what kind of systems you want in your schools, they'll look at with what you want to have, and then are there, in terms of cost savings, things that maybe you should be considering. And then they've worked with local systems all over Eastern North Carolina. Lynch Mikens, again, firm that we've worked with a lot in terms of structural engineering, and they too are really good about looking at what structural systems work best, both in terms of constructability, especially when we're talking about working on a site that already has children on site. Sometimes you think, well, this is the cheapest, but maybe the equipment that needs to get on the site or the duration of the workers that are going to be on site exposed to children might be longer than something you'd like, but then that might be the least expensive, so we work with that scenario. So they look at that with us. And then I'll let Crystal talk about this.
How are y'all? For the past 27 years, I've designed over 320 schools across North Carolina and 44 different school systems, including working for y'all. And we are a local firm in terms of the fact that we come out of the Triangle, and the bulk of our work in school systems is down east. So we love this. This is our passion, and over 60% of our work is in K-12. We have done a lot of work with Skinner Farlow as well, over really about 35 years.
And just to say, this is one of the projects that we just did, working with Chris and her firm. It's York Elementary School, which is in downtown Rockwell. It's off near Crabtree Mall, actually. It's a replacement school, and it bid about a month ago, and it came in 1% under budget, right at the peak of, right before the coronavirus hit. So it was pretty much at the peak of the market. So we were really happy about that.
And very similar to your site, very compact elementary school and occupied school site while we're going to be doing the construction.
So we have visited your school. Oh, sorry. We have visited your school. We came down, I guess it was last 2 weeks ago, and we met the principal, walked through the school. I mean, it has a really nice feel to it. It was built in the 20s. It appears to be, and then added on throughout the years. I mean, it feels like a school, and they seem to be really happy with it. So I think it's a community that we would be very excited to work with because they're so positive about their school. Then looking also into the gym. I mean, that is a very nice facility that you have that it may need a little bit of love, but no other elementary school has anything like that, really. So we're excited about that too.
Very quickly, I know you're oriented to your own site, but this is the middle school in the lower area and the existing elementary school in the upper left side. And we want to talk to you about applying a particular school. This is Jones out of Wilson, North Carolina. And what we've done is we've shown how it would fit on the site and how it creates a cohesive campus with the middle school, which we thought was very important. South-facing welcoming entrance, reorienting the middle school competition field so it's north-south. So we actually, you can see between softball and baseball, we've actually moved the field over to the right. And then creating that opportunity, because we have an athletic complex and an elementary middle school complex, it allows those multi-purpose field for the elementary school to be used by the middle school after hours. And I also wanted to talk about this in terms of circulation. What we did in the previous sketch, without any input from you, and I want to make sure you know, we recognize that we want your feedback. We're just test fitting this particular prototype. What we did here is we respected the original circulation of the school and actually respected the fact that we need 2,000 linear feet of queuing on the site. So we're showing a double queue to the very bottom circle. That's the front door. And then buses to the rear. But what we also wanted to show you is we are showing saving the existing gym and looking at a shared bus access that could actually come off of the middle school bus drive. So we're showing it coming off of Red Oak Road, but we're also showing that rectangle can actually access from there. That way, you have a direct connection to the gym coming off of a classroom wing. So we're showing you two options here. And then looking in detail at the actual design, you can see that the car queue and the arrows to the left and the lower part are showing a long queue to the front entrance. We know DOT will require that. Undisputedly, we probably do the most schools across North Carolina, and we work a lot with DOT. It's also looking at the bus parking to the rear, service to the rear, but also, as I showed you previously, buses could actually come in from the right side so that you have a direct connection to the gym without having any path of vehicles that would conflict with that.
Thanks, Chris. So this is, as we said, prototype John Jones Elementary School, which is in Wilson. It's about 17 miles from here. So I encourage anyone who would like to go visit to let us know, and we can help you set up a time that you can walk through the school. So this is the floor plan of Jones, and what we're showing here are some extra classrooms that would be needed. This school is really designed, it was designed in 2007 as the same size school that you need now. But since the class sizes have changed, we've had to add a few classrooms here. So basically, oops, the front door is here. This is the media center here. Administrative, you come in through a secure vestibule. I don't know what I'm trying to say. Secure vestibule at the front door. So you check in here, come into the school. You can't just walk in. This is the multipurpose room. This is the cafeteria. This is the bus entrance here. And this is the service yard and the loading dock. And then you have pre-K, kindergarten, first grade on this side, and third grade, fourth grade, and fifth grade on that side. That's all changeable, and we could do it either way on your site. And this is showing the elevation of that project. It is a one-story with a metal roof. And then to just compare what DPI guidelines are for an 800 student school to this prototype, you basically can see that we have the same number of classrooms here. We have all the different needs for that size school here, and including administrative. And then when you come down, the size of the school ends up being 109,000 square feet. It is so the way that the class sizes are now, they give you an average size and a maximum size. So those two numbers there, 820 and 962, that's average, and then maximum size classrooms. So that's the size of the school and what it would accommodate. This is what Jones looks like, and as I said, we'd be happy to give you a tour of it. It's very simple construction, A-frame roof with the mechanical lofts above the corridors. So it is a chiller and a boiler system, the way it's designed. So just to talk a little bit about our past performance, we are a firm that is known for coming in on budget, coming in on time, and having low change orders. And that saves money for taxpayers, and it's really what we're known for. On the last 5 projects, over 15 million, and this includes the one that bid last month, we're 5.05% under budget. So we're under budget overall if you average that out. Our errors and omissions are typically less than 1/3% on average. John Jones was very low at 1/4%. So it was like $38,000 over a $15 million project. So very low change orders. And we know how to get approvals, and Chris knows how to get projects approved through site planning. Typically, there could be as many as 20 site plan and building approvals, and we know how to negotiate that. We've had no legal or technical issues in our 60-year history. So now to look at the costs for John Jones. This is, like I said, it was bid in August 2007, right before the big crash of that time. And it came in at $152.40 a square foot. Since that time, there's been about 35% escalation. So we're looking at about $205 a square foot in today's dollars. So if you multiply that out times 109,000 square feet, you're a little bit above budget. You're 22,482,000. So we looked at ways, what we can do to save costs on this project and bring it in for less than 20 million. The cost savings, we can look at cost savings on exterior materials. Oops. We can look at perhaps using some sort of block materials or metal panel materials. We can reduce the size of the building by 10%. Pretty much all these classrooms are right on, the DPI guidelines, and they can be a little bit smaller. So that would be a significant cost savings to make everything a little bit smaller. We can eliminate the multi-purpose room, which is this, and the spaces near it. Since you have a gym, you really have a multi-purpose room already, so that could be another big savings. We can look at simplifying the windows. There's a lot of glass in these connector areas, so we can reduce that. We do think it's important for the children to be able to see outside and orient themselves, but we could do it with less glass. And we can look at making a little bit less glass also in the media center. That's really a lot. The large covered entry here, we don't need that on this project because of the way that Chris has laid out the front door. So we don't need anything nearly that large. So we could reduce that out and save probably $90,000. We can study other mechanical systems, and I know that might be something you don't want to do, but we would at least look at it and let you know what the cost of going from, like, say, a 4-pipe system to a heat pump system would be. It would probably save a couple of $100,000. It would probably make the electrical go up a little bit, but we think the net savings would be $200,000. So looking at all those options, we could probably get about $4.3 million out of the project. So the construction cost would then be a little more than 18 million. And then if you add in fees, contingencies, and allowances at 10%, you're still just under the $20 million budget. So we think it's doable, and we would like to do it for you. Just to answer a couple of questions that you might have, our current workload, we're working on 2 elementary schools in Wake County currently. One is just getting under construction. One is in design. And then we have 2 other smaller projects. So we're ready to start on this. Our office during these times is working from home. We work on the cloud. We're all working in one Revit model together. So we have the whole office is working on one thing at the same time, even though we're not together in the same room.
We might be more efficient, actually.
Yeah.
Nobody get distracted by water bottles, they might get distracted by their kids, but they're getting a lot done.
They are,
Oh,
yeah.
good work.
They are. Let's see. Oh, and I wish Ben could have been here today, but we are very fortunate to have Ben Skinner as our construction administrator. He is, I think, one of the best in the business. He has over 40 years experience doing K-12 projects. He has extensive presence on the site. He lives 17 miles from here in Wilson, so he'll be here a lot, overseeing the construction. And he is the best steward of your taxpayer dollars that you could have as an advocate during construction. And these are just some of our clients that we've worked with. Since 1957, most of our work is public work, so we know how to meet a budget and we know how to meet a deadline. And when we do that, all the time. Thank you very much again, and we're here to answer your questions.
Yes, what is your estimated timetable for this project from start to finish?
So depending on how much we change the plan, we think that we can make changes to the drawings in 4 to 5 months. But the site plan approval process takes longer than that. And I'll let Chris speak. I think probably 8 to 10 months is more realistic.
I think 8 to 10 months. Department of Transportation is the challenge because they are now paying for off-site road improvements themselves. So we're finding that process, we need to get in and negotiate with them very quickly.
So you said 8 to 10 months on the site plan approval.
Correct, and that would not be, the site plan approval would not take that long. It's really the Department of Transportation because they review the queuing on the site as well. They're not just off-site. We have to make sure that we meet the 2,000 linear feet of queuing, which is a lot. It's almost half a mile. But what we showed you and demonstrated today, we can do that.
What about the construction phase and opening date? Do you have a projected time on that?
I think we said 12 months. I don't remember exactly what we said. It could probably be done in 12 months. It might be 12 to 14 months. And it also depends on the virus and how that might affect things. But I don't think it'll affect the design side because we can get that done.
Good, Shane. So you put a slide up that really answers my question about the DPI, educational and other spaces and the spatial profiles. I'm just gonna ask a simple question on that. So the 109,000 square feet. So I think your slide answers that you do offer that service. So but for 109,000 square feet, does that include the gym?
That does include it.
It does.
And that's about, and to take that out was about 6,300 square feet. I mean, and the associated spaces, there's the stage and some other stuff that goes with it. So about 6,300 square feet. So that, yes, that's how that. So John, just to let you know, John Jones was right at 100,000 square feet. So that extra 9,000 square feet more has to do with the class size change, really.
Thank you.
Make sure I understand, Nick, when you say does it include the gym, is that the gym that we've got or is that the gym you're putting in there on multi-purpose room?
That, it was the new multi-purpose room.
Okay.
It does not include
Like you call it,
the existing gym, no.
Okay.
It doesn't.
Yeah, so that's what I'm looking for. So that 109,000 square foot does not include our existing gym. You want to add a multi-purpose room.
Yes, and if we took the multi-purpose room out, it would reduce that number by 6,000.
But what would it reduce the cost?
That was on the last slide, $1.3 million.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just so I'll know up front, are you gonna leave us something with your presentation on it?
Yes,
I need to make real good notes.
if you want, you can
I
keep
got it.
that and we did print out, that's the whole presentation.
Oh, print out here. Okay, good, all right. On this particular project here, I'm glad y'all been to the site, looked at it. What do you see the top 2 or 3 most difficult issues that deal with on this given project for Nash County school system, Nash Rocky Mountain School System, excuse me.
Sure. I don't think it's a huge challenge, but we'll have to be cognizant of the fact that the children are going to remain on site during construction. So we'll have to have good fencing and barriers between the construction and the existing school. And then it'll have to be phased also because there's work to be done once that school is torn down. So there'll be a period when you move over and then you build your parking lot, basically.
I was gonna say the same thing. There's actually a fairly narrow window for once the building's up and we only have summer to put in the bus loop, the playgrounds, and the car loop. So we have done it a lot. So the second those students are gone, the next day, the contractor is given the notice to proceed to do that work. But I do want to make sure you know, we have a tremendous amount of experience in having only one summer to be able to do all the site work.
In fact, we're doing that at East Wake Middle School right now. They're about to finish the new building and then they're going to tear down the old building and build fields. So that's happening currently, just a few miles up the road. They're changing the name of it to Neuse River Middle School.
Thank you.
Does your team have any experience with the VRF mechanical systems?
That's a good question. I think so. As I said, we couldn't have everybody come today. But I believe that I'm sure that PDC has experience with that.
I've worked on projects with it in other buildings I've worked as an architect with an engineer that's designed those kind of systems in other buildings and adaptations for state buildings for state projects.
Are you aware if PDC has done any design with these systems?
I don't know, but we could get back to you with an answer if that could make an impact on your decision.
Sure. Or your other projects, any of them a school?
No, that project was for a state occupied building, but it did have some specific requirements and it was a lab.
Steve might be available if you want to ask him a question, or we can get back with you.
We can get back to this. So how do you determine these costs and how do you do cost control to stay within that estimate of that 1990?
So we work with independent cost estimators. And we also keep very good records of all the projects that we bid and at the different economic cycles they bid during, because that has more to do with the cost than almost anything. It's just how busy people are at the particular time. We're probably, going to start seeing some downturn in costs. But the way that we'll maintain it is during each phase of the construction, we'll do a cost estimate and come back to you. If we're over budget, we'll say, here's some ideas to cut. What would you like to do? And make those adjustments. And then at the next phase, we'll do the same thing. And we'll probably have an independent cost estimator involved so that we know we're dealing with facts.
Brad, I'd like to add something if I can.
Sure.
I'd like to go in and add something if you don't mind. The site is always the variable. Per square foot costs are pretty competitive on the building. So I want you to know that CLH Design, we do our own cost estimates at each interval as well. So we're comparing it to what the independent cost estimator is doing. That's very important on the site because there's very little information on the site early on for the estimator. So it's very important. We're going to be looking at the water pressure. I see 2 towers, one at the middle, one at the elementary. We need to look at pump systems, capacity, pressure, all those different things. So we look at that very early on.
Those independent cost estimators, are they subs or they work directly for your firm?
They work directly for our firm. We're working with MVP currently on a school in Raleigh. We've also worked with Aiken cost estimators in South Carolina.
They're independent.
Just so they're independent, they're not on your payroll.
We pay them, but
Yeah,
they're not, they don't work in our, yeah, they don't work for our company.
We're sub you a contract.
Right.
The next question is very important, particularly to the, school system, and of course, I know Mr. Skinner, so I'm very familiar with him. But, for the benefit of our board members that are online with the school board as well as commissioners, how do you handle the construction administration aspect of a project like this? And if you would give those details, how Mr. Skinner does that,
Sure.
maybe his frequency to the job site.
So Ben is our CA person, and one important thing that he doesn't just do CA, he also writes our specifications. So he knows what's in the project, so he knows what it's supposed to be when he looks at it in the field, and if it's not, he will tell the people they need to change it. He'll go to the site. Usually there's a weekly meeting that's a set meeting, but also he would go to this one at least 2 other times unannounced during the week. He'll swing by here either on the way in or on the way home because it's so close to where he lives. But he's very good at looking at things and making sure they meet our specifications and our plans.
I think just to add to that, we have a set way in our specifications that we require submittals of all these materials he's requested or specified in the specifications. So in terms of following along that, he has 40 years of experience, making sure that the contractors are sending him what he needs in a timely manner, schedules of values, and all the submittals for the various materials that are supposed to go into the building. And in these weekly meetings, making sure that schedule is being met, not on a monthly basis, but on a weekly basis. Are they meeting their schedule? Outlines what they've indicated in their schedule that they're meeting, and then asking them, if they're not meeting the schedule, what are their means or methods, or how do they anticipate staying on schedule? How are they going to make it up?
I apologize. They're not self-promoting well enough, so I'm going to self-promote them since I worked with them for so long. The Skinner, the Farlow, and the Kerwin are doing the plans. So they don't oversee subordinates who are doing the design. You have 4 partners who are actually doing the design. That's why their change orders are so small. And having worked with y'all for over 30 years, I just want to make sure that that's very clear, is that the Skinner is doing the CA, the Farlow and the Kerwin are doing the design.
Thank you.
And Ben also, and Alicia alluded to it, but he will keep track of the schedule of values, how much the contractor says he's owed at the time, and make sure that that's really what is either on site or in storage, so you don't have to pay for anything that's not already on site.
Thank you.
Without getting into specifics with fees, using a new design versus a prototype, are there cost savings as far as?
There are cost savings, and it depends on how much we have to change the design. But definitely there are cost savings. I mean, the schematic design is, as long as it doesn't change, it's done. We'll still have to do construction documents and update the drawings based on new code requirements. And we may want to put it into Revit, but that's not something you would have to pay for. Revit's a 3D modeling program, and it will allow the project to go more smoothly. It allows you to build the building virtually before you build it in the site. So that's probably something we would do.
You spell that Revit?
REVIT. Or you can just call it BIM, which is Building Information Modeling. It's the same thing.
BIM is what most of us do.
Yeah. That's also what's allowing us to work in the cloud. So it's good.
I have to make sure I was familiar with doing that. So how will you control this time frame to stay on our finished schedule, or whatever we determine that finished schedule to be? Are you looking at liquidation, Danny's liquidation clauses, missed deadline fees?
So there's two parts to that. There's the design part, which, how we'll stay on track during that is we'll set a schematic design deadline, a design development deadline. You know, we'll have key mark places where we submit drawings to you or your committee for review, and we'll, at that same time, we'll give you a cost. So you'll have opportunity to have input all during the design phase. We'll meet the deadlines. I mean, we'll set it up in a realistic way so that gives you time to review the drawings. Once it's under construction, the way that we'll keep it on track is Ben's weekly meetings, basically. I mean, we'll, you know, every meeting that they have with the contractor, there'll be a schedule update. And you'll be able to tell, you know, each part of the construction if it's on track or not on track. So they'll be able to address it and it won't be a surprise, you know, at the end. We'll know about things as they're happening. We can do liquidated damages, and that's a very typical thing.
I just say in terms of keeping a project on schedule during construction is probably the most important. And I think that's why Ben is so admired and well loved through Eastern North Carolina, is because of that weekly meeting. That's probably one of his top items. Is if they aren't meeting the schedule, what are they intending to do that moment? Not by the end of the month, but what are they intending to do to meet that schedule? What are they adjusting? How are they getting more subs on site, changing subs, talking with suppliers? What are they doing to make that schedule happen?
What parts, I think I understand most of what you're doing, but what parts of your service do you expect to sub out? And have you worked with the firms that you would sub them to before? And for a second part, would you even consider using a local firm if they were qualified to do the work that you would be subbing out?
Okay, so we're an architectural firm, so what we would typically sub out, we don't do engineering, we don't do site design. So CLH, we're proposing to use as our site designer. They would do civil engineering and landscape architecture. They're a very key part of the team because there are so many complex site permits that you have to get. It boggles the mind. And they know how to do that very well. So I would not want to change them because they're so good at it. PDC is our preferred plumbing, mechanical, electrical engineer. This team we've put together, we really have done all our schoolwork with them. So if we wanted to, I don't know what type firm that you're talking about, if it's landscape or PME.
Well, that wasn't a specific firm.
Okay.
Yeah. And you would mention your structural.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And our structural is Lynch Mikens. And so we've done all our recent work with them also. I mean, they do really, really good work.
Sometimes I will add, we definitely understand that the local economy should be supported through this project. Sometimes offsite water systems, complex utilities, pump stations, things like that. A lot of times that local civil engineer is the right person to do that. And we will come to you if we feel that there's some complexity and some specific things that a local civil engineer is more qualified to do. We are definitely willing to do that.
And we have done that before for us. They're really good landscape architects also, so they can do that.
All right, thank you.
Can you give an example of a situation that went poorly with a client? How did you resolve?
Well, yes. Let's see. There were some windows that were installed. There were some windows that were installed incorrectly at actually in Wilson at the Wilson DSS. They have a building that's behind their other building. So what we did was Ben handled this very well. We hired an independent consultant to figure out why those windows were leaking. And it cost us like $4,000 to do that, but we couldn't just stand there and argue with the contractor. You did it wrong. So we hired an independent consultant, came in, they took apart the window, figured out why it was leaking. It's not just one window, it was more than one. And determined, what the best course of action was. Then stayed on it. The contractor was not very, he didn't want to come back a lot. He they were all pointing fingers at each other. Finally, we got, after months of, negotiating and getting them to come back, they came back and fixed the windows. But we didn't walk away from it. We will be there for you if there's a problem, and we'll stay with you until it's resolved. And it won't cost you anything if it's not your fault. But we haven't had that many times.
So the core that you put up here to show us, design for, is there any ability for future expansion of that footprint so we wouldn't have to build a new separate building on site if our population was to increase?
Yes.
Student population.
That's a good question.
Thank you.
This is a very, you can see, I'll stand here. Yeah.
It's impacted most. That's good.
Well, just before we go to the site plan,
Yeah.
you can see how easy it is to add onto the ends of these wings. We're limited more this direction on your site than we are in these directions. There's also opportunities to add on, to make the cafeteria bigger if we wanted to, and especially if we take this piece out and slide this stuff over, or leave that could be a future expansion also. But you can see we're limited on the site. There's not a whole lot of space. You could probably move here, here, and here. But there is the opportunity to expand in those places. Sorry.
Talked about it a little bit. Discuss a little bit more. Our budget on this project is pretty well fixed, and it's a very important item to the school board and of course to the funding agency, to the board of commissioners as well. What assurances can you give that your design firm will bring the project within our $20 million set budget all in?
I guess the best thing that I could say about that is just to look at our track record, and we have been doing that. We've been doing it when the economy is good, and we've done it when the economy, it's a lot easier to do when the economy is not so great. But the fact that we bid a $33 million project a month ago and it came in under budget, we were very happy with that. So I think these numbers are realistic. And if we do the things that we talked about here, we can get it under budget.
All right.
Can I ask something?
Sure, absolutely.
Help me again, and you may have spoken and said if you did, I apologize. But that total number you have here, does that include demolition of the existing school?
It does not include demolition. That, and I'm trying to, you remember what they demo? Probably about $100,000.
So demo and the parking lot build?
It does include
It
site
includes the
work.
parking lot, but just not the demolition?
Right.
Okay.
It also doesn't include major renovations to your gymnasium.
To the existing gym? Okay.
You said it does or does not?
Does not.
Can I add one other kind of thing? I wanted to add one more think outside the box idea. Obviously, you're going to get very nice renderings from us. We wanted to show you examples of that. But there is another option, and there is fundraising within the community for certain things that you want, that you might be able to get a bank to sponsor. And I'm talking kind of heading towards the middle school and seeing that you do have some sponsors over there for some of the fields. We do show our multi-purpose field moving a little bit over to the middle school side, and there actually is a good reason for that. Was thinking that the middle school could use that field for practice in the afternoons. Also provides an opportunity for us to go out into the community and help you raise money, private money, to be able to build some of the things that are on the site. So we definitely think that way. Every time we're creating graphics, we are looking at what kind of community presentations we will be doing and creating that opportunity and volunteering our time to help you find those other partners.
Of course, you realize we're not allowed to talk about UP in this particular aspect of the selecting the architect, but when you give us a fee, is it all inclusive of everything that you talked about here today and the outside contractors, particularly the construction administration and so forth? What additional fees will be charged beyond your base fee that you and the school system agree on?
So unless the scope changes, if we agree on the scope and we give you a fee for that. So if once we give you a fee, we don't want to nickel and dime you. We will stick with it. If you say we want to add 100,000 square feet or something, or, if the scope changes, then yes, we would want an additional fee for that. Everything is included, except there are a few things that are typically provided by the owner. That is a survey and soils and materials testing, soil borings, testing during construction. Those are typical owner costs. And then it's not a large cost, but printing paper documents, that type of thing, that would be an expense. But we won't charge you any other kinds of expenses. I mean, you would also have to pay the building code, not code review, but permit fees. Permit fees, yeah.
The owner, the way you do it, would be paying that.
The owner would pay permit fees, yes.
Anything else you think of on that question?
I think that's it.
And I think our last question is, what is your experience in utilizing a pre-engineered structure system and a standing seam metal roof with the utilization of a simple saver insulation method to build a school of this nature?
We have done metal buildings before, but I don't think we've ever done a school building that way. We've done, so we did the Nissan dealership in Wilson is that type of construction. So we're familiar with that. We have not done school. Don't know.
I can speak a little. So, depending on what the exterior cladding materials are, really influences the cost of structure for prefabricated metal buildings or prefabricated metal systems. So I can speak directly to a project we're working on with the Department of Agriculture where they wanted a prefabricated metal building, but then they wanted to coat it. They wanted masonry to be all around it. Well, masonry has less tolerance for movement. So therefore the structure size had to be increased. And that meant that the prefabricated metal building structure was in fact more expensive than using steel studs because we needed them anyway for the masonry surround. So just depending on what the cladding ends up being will depend on whether a prefabricated metal structure is actually more efficient than using another structural system. So that's something we would want to evaluate with you.
But you haven't done one previously, I think.
No,
Not
for
a school.
school.
We've done them for other things.
So that wraps up our questions. At this point, do you have any questions for us?
No. I mean, we thank you for the opportunity. We would really like to work on the project.
Does any of the committee members up here today have clarification, have any questions? Any one of the school board members that's online with us have any questions?
Nothing posted right now. If they can ask questions, they can unmute and ask those questions.
Have no questions, everybody?
I'd just like to make sure our board of commissioners that are online, if you have any questions, this is the time to ask those as well. Any of y'all have questions?
No, I don't see anything.
Can we get back with you about the question you had about the mechanical system and how would we do that?
I would say follow suit with what we've done and just send that question to Rod. You can just email it back to
Okay.
Rod and he'll pass that down.
We'll do that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Our next interview firm will be at 1:15, so we've got a little bit of time.
4.
Okay, we're back. We now have Oakley and Collier. You guys understand the 15 minutes and then how we're going to do the questions. So if we will go around the room, you probably know that we'll introduce everybody.
I'm Franklin Lillian, Nash Rocky Mountain Board of Education Chair.
Chris Bissett, Nash Rocky Mountain School Board.
Or Robbie Davis, the chairman of the Nash County Board of Commissioners.
Wayne Outlaw, Board of Commissioners.
Shannon Davis, Director of Maintenance, Nash Rocky Mountain Schools.
Steve Ellis, Superintendent.
Okay, so the first 15 minutes is yours.
Well, we thank you for the opportunity to be with you today. We're excited about the new elementary school in our community. And today we want to spend a few minutes talking about our approach, our team, and then certainly answer the questions that you may have for us. Oakley College, oops, sorry. Okay. Our team members, and some of them are joining us virtually today. Everybody that you see on the screen has an active role in the project. We're not here just to tell you how wonderful we are and go on to something else. We actually work on the project from the first day to the very last day. My role in the project is the overall construction management, budget management. Ann Collier has the architect of record, does all the programming, lead those aspects of it. Bailey Allred and David Griffin work on the project design and execution, and Frankie Joyner would do the CA in concert with the team members as well as our consultants. Our consultants should be joining us by phone or online, and I'll let them introduce themselves, starting with Craig Fisher.
Hello, I'm Craig Fisher. I'm the structural engineer with Stewart. We've worked with Oakley for 26 years now. We have a wonderful experience, and we truly have fun together. And I think that's what separates us. I'm actually from Brattleboro, North Carolina, proud to say that. And my mom actually taught in the Nash County school system. She taught at the Hubbard Elementary School for a long time, which is not too far away from this site.
Next will be Wilson Pugh.
Hi, I'm Wilson Pugh with Engineering Source of North Carolina. Company started in January of 2000, so we've been in business for over 20 years. I've got over 30 years of experience in plumbing, mechanical, electrical, and fire alarm design. We've done over 30 school projects, some new, some renovation, and we've been working with Oakley Collier for well over 15 years. And in our office here in Greenville, North Carolina, we've got 8 people and just one office.
Thank you, guys.
Oh, and then Mike Stocks.
I'm sorry, Mike. Sorry about that, Mike.
No problem, Tim. Hello, my name is Mike Stocks. I'm with Stocks Engineering. Our office is located right here in Nashville, North Carolina, about 750 yards from the Board of Education offices where you guys are right now. Over the past 21 years, we have worked on around 75 to 100 projects with Oakley, multiple projects with the Nash Rocky Mountain School Board, on some rebuild projects with Oakley Collier, and also doing some drop-off lane improvements at Southern Nash, Coopers, Red Oak Middle, just around to get the traffic going off your sites a little bit better. So we're very familiar with the Nash Rocky Mountain school system and look forward to working with you on this project.
I'll step in now. Ann Collier, as Tim introduced me, I'll be the architect of record for the project. Actually, I've worked in schools my whole career since graduating. My first firms were primarily school design firms. I cut my teeth in this type of design. I actually love it. But we have worked with Nash Rocky Mountain School since 1998 was our first project. I joined Tim's firm in 1997, and that was one of the first things we did. It was Cooper's Elementary School. So we're well versed with Nash Rocky Mountain, excited about this opportunity and this project. We've been on every single one of your campuses, but we've done active work on 14 of your campuses. that we're understand the projects or the background and what you're looking for, and excited, like I said. We want to take a few moments now to answer the questions that you asked us to answer. The first question being, how will our prototype fit on your site? And so we've taken, this is a shot of the existing Red Oak Elementary campus. You'll see, I know there's a pointer here. Let's see. The existing main building here, cafeteria, gymnasium, again, parking, drop off, continues around school. It's a tight site, as you well know, and we have some open area here that is available for building, as well as Red Oak Middle School ball fields to the side. So our prototype that we are proposing is actually based on our Coopers Elementary School that we first did with you. That was designed as a smaller school, and we've expanded our prototype to include the 900 student core capacity. That's how we set that prototype up, actually. And so you'll see what we've proposed with this prototype is to actually build about 50 feet right on the other side of the drive lane. And again, at Coopers, we built 20 feet away. So we know this will work because that went very well on that site, which was the same original building footprint actually as Red Oak. And so we would maintain, by doing this, we would maintain the drive aisle, some of the parking, the main building campus, the cafeteria, and the gym while construction's going on. And access to the construction site would be off of the road. Would be off the road behind the site, and lay down areas all back in here as we're building. So there's room to do this prototype for 900 students on your campus, but it would need to be phased because we, again, want to maintain operations of your existing school. So our second phase, once the school was actually built, not too far. Then we would demolish the existing building and then put in the parking for buses and cars. And so with this site, what you can see is that the drive lane, about 1,600 feet of drive lane to drop off, and it's a double drop off. So that gives you access for quite a few cars in that scenario. Anyway, 90 to 100 cars potentially in there. And we know that's an issue for this campus, that there are a lot of parents that drop off. Also gives you primary parking in the center of that, and that is accessed without having to go through the drop-off lane, and then some visitor parking here as well. We keep buses separate, and we added a new drive here to keep buses separate along with kitchen and cafeteria loading and unloading and the utility portion of site design. And then we also would anticipate look at trying to improve this road that comes here that connects over to the middle school for either, buses can leave or come in. There's another road there to look at. Play yards adjacent to the school, fenced, safe, trying to keep everything as compact as possible on that site. What you see here, the dark blue school is actually the prototype. I think you asked a question about what we may need to change, and we got that coming in later, but just to show that these are the extra classrooms that increase our prototype to a 900 student school capacity, or the class sizes actually. So one of the things that this school is based on, again, Coopers was based on this DPI space profile years ago. The prototype is based on this. This is where every architect will start when they're designing schools. DPI does us a great favor by looking at different class capacity sizes, school capacity sizes, and then outlining what is needed for those. We look at this primarily as a shopping list, if you will. And I don't want to, this is an important list. It does cover the recommended space standards, but it's designed for any school system. So each school system can have different needs for how they want their school to perform. Some have pre-K, some do not. Some have expanded creative arts, dance, drama, those kind of arts programs, some do not. So this includes a lot of things you may or may not want to have on here. The yellow column at the end is a 920 core capacity school. It's about 107,000 square feet for pre-K through 5. And this, the other thing that makes these lists just a starting point is it includes a percentage for circulation walls, mechanical toilets, all of the accessory spaces that schools need, but aren't necessarily required. You don't have a set size, you can manipulate that a little. So we believe, because your site with Red Oak Elementary also has a gymnasium, a nice gymnasium to stay in place, that we would be about 95,000 square feet to meet the program for the 900 core on your site using the gym, looking through this list. And it would be one of the first things we sat down with your group to do is to program the prototype to make sure that it does meet all the current needs for the school system. But 95 is based on what we already know about your school system and what we've done in the past for you and this list. Anything that I left off? The second question I'll let Tim take over here was, does the prototype realistically fit into the project budget?
The short answer is yes. And the reason we can say yes is we're going to share with you a couple of examples of other projects that we've recently completed and are in the process of bidding that are what we call hybrid construction, which is a mix of conventional construction and some pre-engineered construction that yields a very successful project. The first one is the Rocky Mount Event Center, which is downtown Rocky Mount. We were the architects for the project. That project is, again, it's a mix of conventional construction as well as pre-engineered construction. And it's $178 a square foot for the construction and design fees. Everything we're going to show you is a combination of both. So that was project number one as part of our basis for analyzing the budget for your project. Second one is Halifax Community College, which is out for bid right now. This project two is a combination of pre-engineered structure and conventional construction. And the project cost is $195 per square foot, including the design fees. So as we talk about cost per square foot, we really need to look at what else is there in our program. Because it's not just the bricks and the studs, you've got other costs. So we went back to, this is a budget projection that the school system has used in the past projects. So we went through the process of trying to analyze each area of cost that's involved with building a school. So while our overall construction is 18 million, construction and design fees, $18,965,000, that includes the new construction, that includes the renovation of the gym, the demolition of the existing buildings, as well as a contingency. Because as you start design, things wiggle and wobble through that process. So you have some monies that are available for that as well. The demolition, we actually contacted a local demolition contractor. We said, okay, he's familiar with Red Oak Elementary School. What would it cost to take that school down and the associated pieces of it? So these numbers were real. We went further through what we call soft cost, which is land survey, geotechnical, the various components of the project, the materials testing that goes on. We understand that the cafeteria building has about 2,500 square feet of what may be hazardous material in the floor tiles. So we've included those costs to remove those as well. You'll notice, and this is an interesting piece about this project, the nutrient buy down, which is all about stormwater, we're carrying $0. And Mike, would you explain that, please?
Yeah, Tim, what we did was we went to the state website and confirmed that on that website, the town of Red Oak has a local program. They do not operate under the state program in the TAR PAM. So once we realized they were under a local program, we then contacted Nash County and confirmed that Red Oak was a municipality within Nash County that did not fall under the state regulations or under Nash County's governance. So with that said, that eliminated the tar PAM water quality treatment of the new impervious area that the school is going to, to build. So what happens is we only need a pre versus post runoff scenario, which means there will be no nutrient buy down component of the stormwater.
Thank you, Mike. The other things for consideration, this budget is based on the 900 student capacity. So we would certainly, as we move through a design process, we have, as Ann was showing on the previous slide, those highlighted ends of the school. We take certain elements of the project and bid them as bid alternates. So as we develop the program and develop the overall budgets, it gives you the opportunity on bid day to continue to move forward. We don't know what the current economy will be once we shake out of this COVID-19 virus situation. I'm hoping that the general construction population will be hungry. We may all be hungry, and the prices will improve. But again, we think it's prudent on any project really to have what we call add alternates to the project, so that it gives you, the owner, the choice to move around in the budget, kind of pick and choose some of the options for the college or for the school itself. But further on, we also included in our budget some equipment costs as well as technology upgrades. And when we add all that together, it's $19,923,000. So back to that answer of yes, we think the $20 million budget is good. Now, that doesn't mean we get to go crazy in doing things. Our role as architects is to guide you, help guide you, not tell you can't have anything. But if you so choose something that we don't feel falls under the umbrella, is to say, here's what it costs. Where's the money coming from? Are we giving up something in the project, or is there other money somewhere to achieve? But as we stand here today, given what we know about Nash County Schools and the prototype that we have built, Red Oak Elementary and that community, we think the 19,923 is a good number, all in. What changes do we need to make? Okay. So we do think, because of circulation, bus drop off, parents dropping off, that mirroring the school, flipping it over from our prototype, from where we have it right now, would be advisable. And that takes the administration and puts it in the right proximity to drop off and so forth. And then adding the cafeteria, the wings, adding the additional classrooms. What do we, flipping the admin in the cafeteria wing. That's what happens on the front end of the building. And then creating the connector to the gymnasium within the project. Anything to add to that?
That's good.
I'm sorry.
Can you go back and show what you showed to start with?
Here?
The prototype where you started with.
Oh, sorry.
There.
There.
Okay, I see what you did.
Yeah.
Thank you.
If you were to go to Cooper's today, right, you see the cafeteria and the admin wing are flipped. So that's an overview of where we think where the school is. I'm sorry, I keep saying college. And we certainly think it's within the budget, and we want to answer any questions.
Okay, first question is, what's your estimated timetable for this project from start to finish?
Interesting.
We have a few other slides that we'll flip through that we prepared for thinking about those kind of things.
I'm trying to.
It's number 16, I believe. Slide 16.
Can you access that, please?
Keep going.
Keep going. Yeah. Oh,
All in from design process, 6 months from where we're standing, from who we say go. Owner, DPI reviews, all the DOI, everybody's review period is a 2-month, 60-day period. The bidding and the contracts, 2 months. Construction is 12 to 14 months because of the type of construction and moving around some of the existing features. The demolition and parking, 3 months. All in, you're 25 to 27 months. You're in school fall of 2022 would be the date. We certainly all know that school needs to begin August 25th and with some time in the front end of it. It is, we looked at, can construction be compressed? Okay, it could be done in 12 months, but the other side of it is students are still in school. So we know we can't take down the school until the students are out.
So I think in your slide number 6, you probably already answered my question, but I'll just give you a chance to add to that. So will you help us with the educational spaces and other spaces and education spaces related to the DPI space schedules? I think you've shown us that on slide 6. So obviously that doesn't come at an additional cost to us to help the school system with the design phase.
No, actually, what we would propose to do and what we would do on any project, regardless of whether we start with a prototype or not, is sit down with you and the folks that you want at the key stakeholders, folks you want at the table, and we would walk through the plan, the prototype plan, to make sure that it does still meet the need that you have in mind for this system for that school. Again, that prototype, I think of school design as, I like to call it, a kit of parts. And if you think about their classroom wings, there's cafeteria, there's administration, there's media, and we put them all together in a design and a prototype that works well. It's worked well for you in the past. It fits on this site, but is that really what you need now? So that programming aspect, I think, needs to be done regardless of whether you use a prototype or not, just to ensure that what's designed in that school meets your needs now. And that is no extra, that's just how we start.
Next question is, and I know y'all pretty familiar with this site and pretty familiar with the school system, but on this given project, what is the top 2 or 3 most difficult issues you expect to deal with in constructing this project if you are selected?
I think, and Frankie, you weigh in too, I think one of the issues will be just the logistics of, you've got a campus that's ongoing, all the students are there, all the kids are being dropped off in the morning. So making sure that we're keeping the construction traffic and the school traffic separated and safe. That would be a primary of importance to make sure that's accomplished. As far as the other piece of it is making sure, we're trying to assure that the renovation piece of when we move over to the gym building and getting that accomplished, that we identify early in our programming phase what we call the as building, of checking that building to make sure there are no surprises, so that we don't get way down into the program and go, oh, wow, there's a big fix here. So doing our early homework to assure that we don't hit big roadblocks further down into the program.
I'm talking about construction and contractors.
And the other thing we would do that we think would help the process is process we call pre-qualification of general contractors, where before we ever go out to bid, we generate a list or a questionnaire in concert, because this is a project that's time sensitive and certainly budget sensitive. Thank you.
Can you talk a little from your mechanical system? We're moving more toward the VRF mechanical. Can your mechanical engineer talk a little bit about how the VRF would fit into this prototype?
Sure. And we have done some VRF on the early college. that you guys were occupying, as well as the was it
City Hall.
City Hall. Hey, Wilson, are you still online with us, please? Wilson, are you there?
I was muted. So yes, I'm on the City High and on the early college renovation. And we utilized VRF on both of those jobs. We've done several other jobs with Shannon in the Nash Rocky Mount school system for converting some of the older 1960s and 1970s schools to chiller and boiler system. But on this job specifically, I think we're figuring somewhere between 250 and 270 tons worth of refrigeration. And we're looking at probably 8 to 10 different systems. We probably have 1 or 2 per each of the classroom wings. We'd have 1 for the admin, one or 2 maybe for the media center, and that the kids will flow through those as to whether we can. And each individual classroom will have their own control over that. And we would be looking at trying to do a heat recovery type system, which would allow us to heat in one school and another, because as humans, we know that can be in a classroom and we got different levels. And so by doing the heat recovery, we can simultaneously heat and cool. And I think the only real, the VRF is bringing in fresh air, which is required by the ventilation code and the mechanical code. And we would look at incorporating some fresh air units in the classroom wings and or in some of the other units. And their prototype design has space above the corridors and all for access to these equipment. And that's where the equipment would be located.
Thank you, Wilson. One of the things I will add to that, every major component of the project, we go through a process of cost evaluation where we look at life cycle costs and the long-term benefit versus day one costs, so that all the decisions made in concert with the school is based upon cost analysis and long-term use and life cycle costing. So whether it be HPME or lighting, site, all the major components are looked at that way.
Tim, on that same question information, and has your mechanical engineer done a whole school with this type of system before, the DRF system?
Wilson, are you still there?
Yes. Yes. And the answer to that question is yes, we've done a significant number of retrofits into some older schools, but we recently did an entire elementary school up in Elizabeth City that was completed last year, and it was over 200 tons of refrigeration. It was an existing school that we came in, but it was an entire school. So we did their gymatorium, the cafeteria, the admin, and all the classrooms, all from this type system. So it has been done, and we have done it.
So how do you determine that cost that you came up with, you showing us there? And how do you control that estimate so we stay in budget?
Good question.
We have a lot of historical data, stuff that we have done. We do, the majority of our work is Eastern North Carolina. So we have a lot of contacts within the industry, construction industry, that we use as resources, that we cost analyze every component, whether it be mechanical systems. While Wilson will give us his estimate of what he thinks it will be, we in turn will go ask what we have is what we call friendly contractors to analyze that as well. We've used cost estimating services, and I guess this is, if we're ever going to toot our horn, this is our time, right? Our estimates are usually within 2% of the budget, high, low. We have a great database of real numbers, real time, that we pull from so that we can compare. When we do these cost benefit analysis and life cycle costs, which we do a lot for state projects, we have a vast reservoir of cost information. So when we stand up here and talk about what things cost, what we think your budget's going to be, last thing I want to be is wrong. So we work really diligently to make sure that those numbers are spot on.
Can I add to you?
Absolutely.
One other thing that as a practice our firm does, we're not required to do, is when we do any bid, state statute requires for us to have the contractor list the subcontractor's name and license number, but we go one step further and ask for their price breakdown. That's not required, but we want that information internally so we see per square foot, as a general rule, what that type of project costs within each trade. So civil, mechanical, plumbing, electrical, we always get a price breakdown within our bids submitted. And that's another good check. So we'll look at those costs many different ways. Start out maybe a price per square foot, but as we dig deeper into the design of the project, then we start reaching out, as Tim said earlier, to the demolition contractor to say, hey, this is our scope. What do you think this may cost? Or to other local electricians, or even more specific than that, even within the doors and windows and things like that. So.
Not to belabor that point, but we ask for it during the bid because that's the only time we're going to see a real number. Once we get a schedule of values, we don't know how the numbers have been moved around within that schedule of values. So on bid day, it's a real number.
All right, the school system particularly is very interested in the construction administration part of this construction process. I know we're all pretty happy in design phase, normally goes pretty smooth, but then when the construction starts, we'd like to know how your firm handles construction administration on a project of this nature, and give us as much detail as you will about that. And even to how many times a week you may have somebody on the site.
I'll turn it over to Frankie. He is our contract administrator. That's his sole function in life, is to do CA. Hold on here.
Okay, thank you.
Typically speaking, in a normal project, the visits would be on a weekly basis. This project is not going to be my typical project if we get it. I live a mile from the project site, so whether we get it or not, I'm going to be here every day. This firm will be here every day. I pass it going to work. I pass it coming home from work. Controlling construction, managing that process, and making sure you guys get what you're paying for, making sure you get what you want, making sure we end up in construction with what the design was. We handle that with a lot of front end talk with the contractor. I like pre-construction meetings, like pre-installation meetings with the major subs. And I like those 6-7 weeks out, not a week before we're supposed to show up and everybody's buying parts and we're trying to hang them up. It doesn't work. Back to your question earlier about one of the challenges on this job, we got some raw land to work with, but trying to get to it, man, that's a challenge. There's a bank, there's 2 churches, and there's a couple of roads that we might not be able to load and offload big equipment. So those will be things we'll talk about with the contractor, the site contractor, as we move forward. Shop drawings, I'm gonna have to have time to get those. That'll be a milestone that I ask for on the schedule. I need those very early on so we can go through them. I can go through them and all my consultants can go through and make sure it meets the contract. But then give you time, Shannon, who it is, to look at it with me and go, all right, we really want this type of lock because it works with the keyway that we have, or we want this type of light bulb because it works with the other light bulbs, or we want to move some controls on the system that we've got for the mechanical. That's how we help control that schedule. If we can stay that 5, 6, 7 weeks out, it keeps us all in line, barring weather. You know how that can play into it. We ask for regular schedule updates. Once a contractor says I'm late, he's gonna be late. You just can't buy time. Now, what can we do? We can get the site with more men. We can supplement. If we get a non-performing sub, we could certainly do that. But typically, you have to saturate the job site with more manpower. Bring in 2 crews of framers, or 2 steel crews, or whatever it takes, 3 of them. We work nights, we work weekends, we set up lights. We do those types of things to try to get us back to where we're not behind. But you can't put more hours in the day. You just have to hit it with more manpower. Fiber materials on the front end, that type of thing. Monthly meetings on a regular basis. My job is to make life simple for you guys, so you don't have to sit and worry about what's going on. But I will bother you every month, every couple of weeks if we need to, so we can go through the progress and take that 5 or 6 week look ahead. So you'll know I need to be looking at buying furniture or whatever we've got going on.
In addition to Frankie, each of our primary consultants also do on-site inspections, whether it be site, civil, structural, MEP. So it's not Frankie wearing one hat covering all the bases. All the other engineer design professionals have a responsibility to do that. We actually quarterback that work. One of the things that we have incorporated over the years, and it's been an invaluable tool for us, when we have 2 contract administrators in our office, we have lunch and learns where they come back and tell us what worked or didn't work in our plans and how we might be able to clarify detail in the future so that it becomes very clear. One of the things Frankie tells in an initial meeting, a pre-construction meeting, is understanding the plans from content and intent. Because in the world we live in, I'm old enough, come from the school where you detailed everything. You drew every line, nut, bolt, screw. In the world we live in now, it's a little more generalized. So there's a lot of intent in the plans as well as content. So Frankie is rather masterful at getting the contractor to understand the entire scope of the project.
Without talking a lot about the fee structure, knowing we can't go there, but can you give us any possible cost savings in using a prototype versus a new design?
Well, there's certainly some cost savings in using a prototype in that some of your pre-design and schematic design is reduced. You still have your normal full CA, site design, bidding, all those components of the project. And then depending on what manipulation you do in the plan of growing classrooms or whatever, but usually in the schematic design phase is where your primary savings occur.
I think Frankie touched on this, but I'm gonna give you a chance to answer a few more there. What will you control, or how will you control the time frame to stay on that finished schedule that you mentioned in fall 2022? Would you do things like liquidated damage clauses, missed fees? Just kind of elaborate on that a little bit more.
We do have LDs or liquidated damages written into the contractor's scope of work on his contract. We will enforce those, or we'll ask the owner to enforce them if need be. It helps for the contractor to understand that from day one. Tim mentioned the pre-qualifications earlier. That always helps. You've got to have a contractor at the table that's vested and he believes in what we're doing as a team. The weekly get-togethers that I'll have with the superintendent on the job site, helping him know where I want to be, where we want to be. That collaboration and that open dialogue between the two of us, that helps keep us all at the same pace. Just not showing up, not talking. He's working with no idea of what's in my head. That kind of conversation and dialogue between the superintendent, the project manager, and myself, that helps keep that pace. And then at the bi-weekly or monthly job meetings, we talk about those milestones. Shop drawings is a real key, especially a project this size. That paperwork's got to come in early. We got to have time to review if we do a hybrid, metal buildings are typically they can be quick, but they can be time consuming if that paperwork's not done on the front end. And then, good and well, if we don't have the metal eave color picked out, the manufacturer's not gonna make it. So I know all those parts, we can get that stuff done. So when we get the shop drawings back, we're on the ground running, and that milestone is behind us, and we can begin with construction in earnest.
one of the important elements of that pre-qualification selection process for the GCs is they have to identify their superintendent, their project superintendent, and the experience he or she may have in similar type projects, because they really are the boots on the ground of making a project run smoothly from a general contractor standpoint, as well as the support that he may have or she in executing the shop drawings and those kind of components.
First of all, I do understand y'all's firm, be it local, but what parts of your service do you expect to subcontract out? And have you worked with these firms before on other projects that you tend to use? And would you give any priority to firms where qualified that are local to this area, or are you using any presently?
We're using presently, Stocks Engineering is local. They would do all of our civil site engineering for the project. And again, we've had a long relationship, long-standing relationship with Mike. Same is true with our other consultants, with Stewart Engineering and Wilson Pugh and his company. But we also look for, when we're talking with the owners about other trades, whether it be the the site surveying, geotechnical. While we don't have a local geotechnical group, we certainly have them in Greenville and nearby. But we also have some very good surveyors within our area that we work with and understand what we look for in that area. We also, in this type of project, will use food service consultants for the kitchen side of the equation. And so we have those within our camp as well. But basically, the major components, major subs, if you will, we've used local where we can, where available.
And a long relationship with what we've got.
And that's the key, a long relationship, understanding that the guys, the firms that work with us understand that owners hire us because we should know what the code says and how to interpret the code. And if we break it, then we own it. And so our subs, as well as us, have certainly had to participate in that thing in the past where if we broke it, we own it.
Okay. Thank you.
Can you give an example of a situation that went poorly with a client, and how did you resolve it?
One comes to mind in the not so distant past, that there was a county commissioner that he and I could not communicate.
Not in Nash County.
Not in Nash County.
I will say.
Not in Nash County. And that it became very apparent, this is in a public setting, that we just could not talk with one another. Either he didn't listen or I didn't. And thank goodness, our firm, Ann and I, we're the principals of the firm, we're here as a pair for a reason. Is two heads are better than one, and one can hear clearly if they're not answering the question. And so in that particular case, I looked at my partner and she stepped right in, picked it up, and finished that project all the way through the design process and final construction, and they're happy as they can be. But having the ability to have a partner that understands and listens to the conversation and knows when either I'm not listening or I'm not understanding what they're saying, and being able to step in and interpret is important. But that would be the most recent one.
So with the design that you show us, 900 student court, with that design, is there an ability to increase the footprint of that building should our population, student population increase, to avoid building a new building? And just kind of talk about that.
Okay. So what we presented to you is for 900 students, both in core and classroom. If we build the light blue wing classrooms, it can core facilities and to the front. Those discussions we would have early in the process with your team to make sure we master plan this campus adequately for that. So core would expand, you know, there's room for administration here, for cafeteria, but, you know, we want to make sure we have room right now. This is a loose site plan and there's room to push this building forward. Classroom wise, we have 900 students here and there, again, expanding those is possible too, just outruns, without disrupting really the inner workings of the school. So, but we would want those discussions early because I think for architects, as architects, our job, our responsibility to you is to think to the future, not just day one. And I think in master planning anything, in any project, we are responsible for asking the questions of, so in 10 years, you know, do we need to plan for that now? Because it's so, we didn't know this would grow so rapidly.
In preparing